So we've just had an update on the UK train horror.
2 men have now been arrested after a mass stabbing on a British train that's left 9 people fighting for their lives.
After my Uxbridge attack video, I didn't expect something like this to happen so soon.
Late last night, 2 men jumped on a moving train in Cambridgeshire, stabbing people, sending 10 people into hospital, with 9 of them in life-threatening conditions.
The train attack is no longer being considered as a terrorist attack, and they have confirmed that it is 2 British nationals that are being arrested.
This is the moment a train attack suspect screamed, "Kill me," as armed officers wrestled him to the ground.
Great Britain is on the fucking brink. The media aren't telling the world how treacherous it has become in the UK. The government pretend to give a shit, but don't do anything preventative to actually protect us. And we're all fucking scared and fucking tired. Last night, 2 men boarded a train in Peterborough on its way to King's Cross and went on a rampage, 10 commuters, seriously critically injuring 9 of them. This comes just 4 days after a 22-year-old Afghan migrant stabbed 4 people in Uxbridge. 1. The UK has become lawless. Criminals are becoming more brazen. And nothing is being done about it. The UK government has been very quick to tell us that last night's attack is not being treated as... Why? According to the literal dictionary definition of terrorism, an action or threat designed to influence the government or intimidate the public, that was fucking Perhaps the British government aren't brave enough to deem it because they've told us that the suspects were British nationals. Perhaps this government has forgotten the reality, the very sad reality, of domestic terror. Shamima Begum was British. That didn't stop her pledging allegiance to and joining. Jermaine Lindsay, Shahzad Tanweer, Mohammed Sadiq Khan and Hasib Hussein, the 7-7, were all British nationals. That didn't stop them blowing people to shreds on the tube. How about the British government actually release the names of the British nationals they've arrested? And let's take it a step further, release their...
Welcome back to Blighty Blighted on this sad weekend. I just heard the news of another incident in our country. This is unbelievable and definitely not normal. You can't turn on the telly these days without seeing another stabbing, another attack, another poor soul in the wrong place at the wrong time. This country's getting dangerous, properly dangerous. Not just the odd bar brawl after closing time. I mean people getting hurt in broad daylight, in places that used to be safe. When I was young, you could walk home after a pint and the worst thing that had happened was you'd trip over a curb or get barked at by someone's dog. Now you've got to plan your route like you're in a war zone. And it's not just the cities. It's everywhere now. Villages, parks, high streets, all gone a bit feral. You've got kids carrying knives, gangs squaring up, and half the country pretending it's not happening because it's uncomfortable to talk about. We used to leave our doors unlocked. Now we triple bolt them and pray the alarm battery lasts till morning. And the police? Bless them. They're stretched thinner than a supermarket steak. The ones left are running around doing paperwork instead of catching the nutters causing havoc.
At first, people thought that it was a Halloween prank because it's the Halloween weekend, until people on the train started to run down the carriages covered in blood, screaming that somebody has got a knife. Witnesses on that train said they were trapped with nowhere to go. People were rushing towards the front of the train trying to escape. One man even covered a young girl with his body as the attacker was trying to slash her with a knife, and instead his neck and his head got slashed. 2 men have been arrested on suspicion of attempted murder following the incident. On the London-bound train, they are a 32-year-old black British man and a 35-year-old black British man of Caribbean descent. Following this, the police have said there is nothing to suspect that a stabbing attack on board a Doncaster to London train on Saturday is a terrorist incident. This is such shocking, terrifying news, and I pray for all the victims' speedy recovery in hospital. And I just cannot imagine the shock and the horror of being on that train last night.
The chaos unfolded on the 6:25 p.m. train from Doncaster to London when a man suddenly pulled out a knife and began stabbing passengers at random. Panic broke out inside the packed carriage as people screamed and fought to escape. According to police, the two men arrested on suspicion of attempted murder were a 32-year-old black British national and a 35-year-old British national of Caribbean descent. Both were born in the UK. The train made an emergency stop at Huntingdon Station, where armed officers stormed the carriage. One suspect was tasered as he shouted for police to kill him. 9 passengers were left fighting for their lives, the floor covered in blood as commuters tried desperately to help the wounded. Police say there's currently no evidence of a terror motive, but the brutality of the attack has shaken the country. What began as an ordinary journey home ended in one of the most shocking scenes of violence ever witnessed on Britain's railways.
So my area is obviously in the headlines today as 9 people have been stabbed on a packed train and the government's line, an isolated incident. How many isolated incidents does it take before they stop sounding like excuses? A high-speed train from Doncaster to London King's Cross became a scene of horror last night as a man reportedly armed with a large knife attacked passengers after leaving Peterborough. 9 people are now in hospital with life-threatening injuries and a 10th is seriously hurt. Police tasered a suspect and 2 men have been arrested. Witnesses described blood everywhere, passengers hiding in toilets, people trampled as they fled. But as always, politicians rushed to the microphone. Prime Minister Keir Starmer called the attack deeply concerning. Defence Secretary John Healey said it was close to home, revealing he and his wife had taken the same train service just hours earlier. He praised passengers and emergency crews for their bravery. Fair enough, but then came the line we've heard 100 times before. The only assessment is that this was an isolated incident. He insisted there's no reason for the rest of us not to get on with our lives and that the Home Secretary will update the public once facts are confirmed. But let's be real, when counter-terrorism officers are involved, 2 suspects are in custody and passengers are left traumatised, people want answers, not reassurance soundbites. Funny how, unlike the Liverpool incident where they said they would get the information out quickly, no one has been named and no faces shown. Healey warns we're in a new era of threats. No, not warning we're in a new era of threats. We've been in one for a decade. And the government's threat level remains substantial, meaning an attack is likely. That's the 3rd highest rating MI5 can give. So when the Defence Secretary tells us to get on with our lives, it rings hollow because this isn't about fear. It's about accountability. If this is what a substantial threat looks like, perhaps it's about time those in charge stopped treating national security as a PR exercise and started treating it as their first duty.
A really quick update on the awful incident last night. This poor girl was one of the witnesses and she tells a heartbreaking story about a girl who, when they finally got to the front of the train, had said that a man had stepped in front of her to help her and was attacked in the neck, which is absolutely heartbreaking. For those of you doing the usual dance and jumping to conclusions, the police have stated who the guys are that have been arrested. I think he said 33 male, 35 male. They also went on to state that both of them were born in the UK. Apparently this is some footage. Sorry, it's not a better picture. This is one of them being arrested. Now, it does say on the video he was shouting, kill me, but I'll be honest, I didn't hear him say that on the video. But the update on the people gone to hospital, 10 people were injured. They actually thought more were more life-threatening situation. 4 have already been discharged. Sadly, there are 2 that are in very serious condition. It's just horrendous. The whole situation is just horrendous. Obviously, armed police responded. And I'm sorry, a lot of people might disagree with me when I say this. And do you know what? I never used to think like this. But I don't care who they are, where they're from, whatever. It makes no difference. I would have took them out. Sorry. I'd have took them straight down. Absolutely vile, fucking horrible human beings. And I'm sorry, they don't. No. Nope. I know that's harsh and a lot of people are going to go like, fucking hell. No. Nope. If somebody's willing to go on a train and potentially kill 10 people, nope. Done.
The Huntingdon attack shows a Britain politicians refuse to honestly address. I'm Leah and I talk about politics so you don't have to trust politicians, and today I'm talking about the mass stabbing that has happened on a train in Cambridgeshire. Ed Davey, leader of the Liberal Democrats, has said we must ensure justice is done, and the leader of the Conservative Party has said we cannot face this level of violence. Now, this isn't about better policing or about more security. It's about a country where social cohesion has completely fractured. Because when politicians rush to camera with pre-prepared statements, they are performing, not actually having the conversation Britain needs to have. Which is, why are we seeing this level of violence? What's driving young men to commit mass attacks? Why do communities feel so disconnected that heroic strangers have to shield children on trains? These are the questions that politicians have spent years avoiding because, let's be honest, the answers are uncomfortable. They lie in immigration policy failures, integration that never happened, communities living parallel lives, economic desperation, and a complete breakdown of shared values. Now, it is easier to say that justice will be done than to admit decades of policy failure created this. But the reality is that survivors deserve more than platitudes. They deserve politicians willing to have honest conversations about what's gone wrong in Britain, about why violence feels inevitable, about why trust in institutions is at record lows, about why the social contract is broken down. So, unless and until they do this, the statements won't mean very much, because real leadership requires courage to speak uncomfortable truths. I don't know about you, but I'm not seeing it.
Last night when I saw the news, I was up all night, tossing and turning, just worrying about, every single case situation. It's not fair that we might be going to work and something happens to us. It's not fair that we might be trying to enjoy our weekends and have a nice night after working the whole week. It's not fair that our family, our friends might not come home, or our children, we might send them to school one day and they might not come home. It's just, you don't know what these people are thinking. And when the media are only telling us parts of the story and allowing us to speculate and find the truth for ourselves, that's what's even worse. Why can't they just be transparent with us? Why can't they just prepare us, tell us what's really going on, rather than allow us to walk around thinking that everything's under control when it's not?
It happened on Saturday evening on a London North Eastern Railway service heading to King's Cross Station. Just after 7:30, passengers reported a violent attack involving knives. The train made an emergency stop at Huntingdon Station in Cambridgeshire. Armed police stormed the carriage, tasers were drawn, and both men were arrested on the platform. 9 passengers are now in hospital fighting for their lives. Another, making it 10, has less serious wounds. The British Transport Police have declared this is a major incident, and counter-terrorism policing are now supporting the investigation. For a time, the emergency code word Plato was activated. That's used when there's a potential marauding attack, but it was later stood down once the scene was secure. Police say the motive hasn't been confirmed, and it would be wrong to speculate at this stage. They've also said there's no wider danger to the public. Witnesses describe total panic. People running, screaming, hiding in toilets as the attack unfolded on a packed train. This wasn't a small scuffle. It triggered a full-scale emergency response with air ambulances, armed units, and multiple forces involved. And it's another reminder of how quickly normal life in this country can turn to chaos. Follow for more verified updates and straight talk breakdowns as this investigation unfolds. I'll also invite you to join my bulletin board on my profile page for quick updates and community polls.
Attack. People were trapped on board the Doncaster to London service for at least 8 minutes whilst the driver got to the nearest station where armed police were waiting. That is the time between the first call to the emergency services and the moment the police got on board and arrested 2 men. They're obviously the main suspects. Just imagine how long that 8 minutes must have felt, and the panic on board. They had nowhere to go. They just had to wait until they got to this station. The only detail we have about the 2 men is that they are in their 30s. One's black, the other of Caribbean descent, we're told. It's not being treated as a terror attack, so more of a marauding attack, and British Transport Police are running the investigation of the multiple people attacked. 2 people are in critical condition. Some thankfully have been released, but all thoughts with the 2 people and everyone on board who are going to be living with this trauma for the rest of their lives.
One of those arrested is a 32-year-old black British male. The other is a 35 British male of Caribbean descent. The forces originally declared Plato, which is a national code when there is a terrorist attack. However, at the moment they are saying there is nothing to suggest that it is terror related. Out of the 9 people earlier that were thought to have life-threatening conditions, 4 of them have now been discharged and 2 of them remain in a life-threatening condition. They're the only identifying features we know of the males arrested at the moment, and also that they have been arrested on a suspicion of attempted murder. I would say it has been quick of the police to confirm the nationality and the race of the 2 males arrested. I'd assume this has came from the Southport incident with Axel Budapakana, who took the lives of 3 little girls in Southport and injured so many more. As when misinformation was spread about his background, there was protest and it did trigger a massive backlash. As always, please remember, people do things like this to trigger divide, and love is the only thing that conquers hate. Sending love to all those injured and triggered or witnessed this today. Stay safe, guys.
2 men have been arrested on suspicion of the stabbing that took place on the Doncaster London train. Police saying that it's not terrorism related. Witnesses have been describing that this situation has been absolute chaos and that people were fearing for their lives. Let's get into it. So police are saying there's nothing to suggest a stabbing attack on board a Doncaster London train on Saturday was a Uris incident. 4 of the 9 people initially thought to have life-threatening injuries have been discharged. Police also say 2 men, both British nationals, have been arrested on suspicion of attempted murder. Armed officers boarded the train and made the arrest after the 6:25 service was diverted to Huntington, following calls by passengers to police around 7:40. An eyewitness tells the BBC they saw a man with a blood-dyed arm fleeing down a carriage yelling, "They've got a knife." Another witness says police tasered a man on a platform. So one of the eyewitnesses was like, telling people that you need to run. Now, just for a minute, I want people to actually take this in. Imagine you are going somewhere, whether it's to your place of work, whether it's to go and visit friends and family, whether you're just going away on a romantic holiday for the weekend, and you have to now worry about 2 bozos that are carrying a weapon, running down a train, just stabbing people up. Like that, I don't know, man. I don't know what goes through people's minds. Like I can't try to think how these people think, because I don't obviously think the way that they think. But for me personally, it's just like, what actually brings you to think, you know what, today, for Bants, I'm gonna go in the kitchen, grab a knife, and just run down a train and start stabbing people? You see, when people commit crimes like this, it shouldn't even be a thing where you have to determine. I feel like they should just automatically get a life sentence, because you're a danger to society. That's not like normal behavior. Like, no one just wakes up and decides they're going to start stabbing people on a random Saturday, sorry. I do hope everybody is okay. From what I've read, I haven't heard that anybody's lost their life, but it has been life-threatening. But I do hope everyone that has gone through this recovers physically and also mentally, because stuff like this can have a mental impact. People that go on train might be scared to now take a train. Do you know that the mental cause that stuff like this can cause on people? Like, I don't know, man. People are just like, I don't know. I don't know. I have no words for stuff like this. It's just very sad. It's just sad that, people have had to go and ruin other people's lives by just going and... Man, I have no words, man.
Stommer, I'm getting comments from my followers over in the United Kingdom that if they tell us what has happened, or if they post it on other social media platforms, that they have the possibility of getting arrested. That freedom of speech doesn't exist over there with our brothers and our sisters over in the UK. Who are the people that were on that train that attacked the beautiful citizens over there in the United Kingdom? They're suppressing the news over here. They're trying to hide it from all of us. They're not telling us the truth. And you, as a prime minister, should be absolutely ashamed of yourself how you don't put the citizens of the United Kingdom first before the illegal immigrants that you let pour into that country. I promise you that our President Donald Trump is completely aware of what's going on. I wish I was a fly on the wall when he gives you a call. But you have got to clean this shit up. If you have anything left in you that represents you as a Brit, as somebody that's proud to be over there in the United Kingdom, where you have fought and your boys have fought in every single war side by side with our brothers and our sisters over here in the United States of America, you will call for action now. This is bullshit. This is an atrocity. It's finished, it's done, it is over. To the citizens of the United Kingdom, to my brothers and sisters over there in the UK, I ask you, if not now, when?
Good morning, people. For you that didn't hear last night, there was an attack at Huntingdon train station in Cambridgeshire. So it's been almost 6 hours now since the police first received reports of multiple stabbings aboard the 18:25 p.m. service from Doncaster to King's Cross. After receiving that call at 19:42, a large number of emergency responders attended the scene at Huntingdon Station in Cambridgeshire, where the train made an unscheduled stop. Police have since confirmed that 9 people in hospital with life-threatening injuries. A 10th person has been treated in hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. And people were commenting on yesterday's video saying, how can you say this is terror-related? Really, you people are terrorist sympathisers for even commenting something like that. 2 people have been arrested in connection with the incident and are currently in police custody. No names, nothing. We don't know anything. Only a little bit from what the witnesses have said. So we're going to go through what one of the witnesses has said here. Older man blocked attacker from stabbing young girl, eyewitness. Says eyewitness. An eyewitness who was on the train at the time of the incident says passengers were left in pure panic as bleeding victims called out for help. Ollie Foster told the BBC he initially heard people shouting, "Run, run, there's a guy literally stabbing everyone," and believed it might have been a night after Halloween prank. Within minutes, people started pushing through the carriage, and Foster noticed his hand was covered in blood, as there was blood all over the chair he had leaned on. An older man blocked the attacker from stabbing a young girl, leaving him with a gash on his head and neck. Foster said passengers around him used jackets to try to staunch the bleeding. He added that the only thing people in this carriage could use against the attacker was a bottle of Jack Daniel's whiskey, leaving them praying that he would not enter the carriage. Although it lasted 10 to 15 minutes in total, Foster says the incident felt like forever. 10 to 15 minutes on a train, that must have been terrifying. It's not like usually these things, it's seconds and they're away. To be trapped on a carriage and knowing that they can be coming through, that must have been terrifying for these people. Several MPs have described the scene in Huntingdon as horrifying. Shadow Home Secretary Chris Phillip wrote on X that his thoughts were with all those injured and affected and called on the police and the government to provide an update on the incident. Yeah, I don't think there'll be any rush for that, will there? Witnesses tells media that police tasered a man holding a knife. So he's been tasered, whereas in the United States, he'd be in a coffin now, wouldn't it? It's the thing, they'll taser him, they'll give him a little shitty sentence, and then he'll be out in a few years. That's what usually happens in the UK, right?
The UK's always had its rough edges. But this is something else. It's fear and it's spreading. We're turning into a country where people look over their shoulder just walking home. And that's no way to live. They call it broken Britain. I think it's a little more than that these days. Keep safe, everyone. I will see you on the next video.